Good evening and welcome to the February 3rd regular school board meeting. We're going to have some pledger or pledgers, Ms. Deely? Still very loud.
All right, so Mrs. Dow nominated me pledgers to come. I didn't really know what to say. Why? So she had this to say. She said that you arrive every day in school with a ready to learn attitude. They show it is. Yeah.
But why aren't they on camera?
Talking to this thing.
Oh, there it is.
That better? You show genuine curiosity and you really understand that school matters. Whether learning new material, listening to a read aloud, they have great focus and enthusiasm and really set a great example for their peers. Showing that even at kindergarten age, a strong commitment to education can really shine through. So today when I was in your class, you were counting how many books you've read aloud. You remember that number? 154. They've read 154 read alouds this year, so that's pretty impressive. And would you like to share what your favorite part of kindergarten is? Wait, I'm going to put this down here.
I like making crafts. I like doing sign language.
Oh,
Which? You're super brave to do that. To talk into that microphone. Are you ready to do the pledge now? You're gonna say loud, proud. Ready, here we go.
I allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wait, John, you said that so nice. Yeah, a little. So thanks for coming and doing such a great job and keep up the great work. Maybe we'll see you again when you get older. I gave them each one action. Okay. Did I get all the hit? It's 4 piece, right?
Sure. Did they each go?
yeah, yeah.
Think there's another.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Oh, this is for me?
Oh gosh. Wow.
It's always so hard to follow such great pledgers.
That's what I was telling them before. I was like, the meeting really goes downhill after pledge.
All right, so any changes to the agenda?
We have an ill high school rep, so
Okay, so we will not be hearing from Peyton.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended, removing the high school representative because she's sick. We hope she feels better.
Second that?
Hey, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. A pen I can borrow, mine won't work.
Thank you.
All right, approval of the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the December 16th regular meeting and public meeting minutes, as well as the January 6th budget hearing. January 13th public and January 13th non-public minutes.
Any discussion? Any second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Or was that the one I was not at? Yeah, so I was not at the 13th. So when we,
Think we'll separate.
yeah, you have to do those separate. Sorry, you have to do those separate.
That's fair. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the December 16th public and non-public minutes, as well as the January 6th budget hearing minutes.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve the January 13th public and non-public minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Extension.
Okay, we're up to public comment. Look how quickly that happened. Anybody? Anybody online? Not seeing hands. There will be another opportunity later. Just a shot of Laura, public. All right, so our energy management consultants presentation. Yeah. Ah. These mics are so sensitive.
Yeah. That's okay.
For those of you online, they're just setting up their presentation. Just a moment.
It's linked on the front page of the website where the agenda is as well, if they're not like watching and they're just listening on phones.
It actually works. You want me to just keep going or?
Yes, please.
Jump
Okay.
right in.
About 6 months ago, we engaged with Barrington Schools to start doing an energy and infrastructure analysis for the district. This is members of our engineering and development team, Adam Hodgkins and Carl Eden. Also been working on the generator application through FEMA and met with you guys recently on the generator, brought FEMA in and just discussed the opportunity that we have on the table through the generator grant, which is going to take a little bit longer, but still working on that actively. So hopefully that all comes through. Some of the things that we typically look at here, I'm going to go through these slides probably a little quicker than normal. Just, I know you guys have other things to look at, and this is 6 months of engineering and development in probably a compressed 20-minute time frame. So I'm going to go quick, but I'll send all this information, which I think you already have in a different format. So any questions, stop me along the way. But these are just the typical places that we look. All we really do, or 99% of our work is done through schools, with schools. So we're pretty well versed in how you guys operate and where you pull your energy from and where we can pull savings from to help offset costs. So this is just a general description of some of those opportunities that we look at and explore. We base everything on this list that you'll see in terms of aging infrastructure on ASHRAE standards. This is certainly not an EMC timetable for when things are getting old. This is just all based on just general ASHRAE engineering practices and the general life expectancy of all things in your facility. We prioritize things on a 1 through 3 basis in terms of making a prioritized list. It really helps you guys in terms of creating that capital plan, figuring out right now what is highest priority and what can wait. And so when you've got, you know, just in this one room alone, you've got 25 measures to consider. At some point, everything will fail, right? Whether it's lights, the ventilation, you know, the kitchen equipment, you name it. So it is helpful to prioritize that list. And this is kind of how we do it. And you'll notice through the project or process how the 1 through 3 rankings continue to poke up. So once we start, we do our analysis, which we've done, and then we've created this cost analysis next to it, which we have every single measure listed on this matrix, which I'll show you after. And then we give you this a total analysis to take a look at, and then we take everything out of the analysis and put it into a slide deck just like this. Once we know the things that you guys want to consider doing as part of a project at some point, our job is not, we're a consulting and engineering firm. Our job is not to sell you guys or push you in any direction. Our job is to identify opportunities or things that you should be considering for replacement coming down the road, or attractive incentives that are out there through Eversource and other measures like VRF or heat pumps, sustainability measures that you may or may not already have, but just show general operational deficiencies and ways to fund them that are a little unique. Once we find those measures and that you guys decide on what it is that you'd like to attack as a project, we then generate options for you to look at. And this is not for every single thing, but a boiler plant, adding a VRF system to a school or something that you're bringing in new that you should do some pretty considerable heavy engineering to make sure that you're doing the right thing for the next 30 years, right? So that's what we do. We lay out different concepts for you to look at. Once you figure out which concept you'd like to move forward with, then we develop a set of plans and a set of prints, which is basically your bid specifications. And we walk the contractors through based on all that information and answer all the RFIs, make sure that they're getting all their questions answered, and it's all done very above board so that everybody's on the same sheet of music. It's very crystal clear as to what they're bidding on, what you're receiving for bids, and how you're spending your money. To us, that's probably the most important part of this, is that there's no surprises on how your money is being spent. And you guys added this, to pull back the curtain thing. A lot of times you'll see numbers, we don't really know where the numbers came from. You don't get to see behind the curtain, so to speak. So, and that was a surprise. I didn't know you added that little end thing in there. Thanks for that, Adam. So these are the bids based on the bid specifications that we just showed you. This is an actual project. So if we've done our job correctly, as you can see, the numbers are pretty dang close. It's 1.2, 1.2, 1.3. That means our engineering was pretty spot on. But you're going to see all the bids, again, peeling back the curtain, you see all the bids directly from the contractors, whichever measure you decide you like. And then how EMC gets paid, we'd like to discuss this up front because we don't want that to be a mystery, is that as your engineering consulting firm, we get paid 10% profit to engineer, run, and own the responsibility of all the contractors and the risk of the entire project. So that's how we get paid. You're not tied to us for any length of time or any shared savings approach, any of that stuff. We're again, your general consulting and engineering firm. We're not a service company or, anything like that. So our primary goal is to make sure that you're doing things crystal clear for your taxpayers, your constituents, but also making sure that there's no proprietary equipment in your buildings after the fact as well. So that's a big part of our whole concept, which I think is why we were chosen to do this analysis. Priority one, as you can see in the top there, this is what we do. We take the information from the report, put it in the slide deck, and then put it into our pricing tool. But the middle school boiler room has been something that Joe and the team have been wanting to address for quite some time, just because it also merges in with the opportunity for the generator. So converting this to propane with something more efficient, like the boiler that you do already have in there, just a newer version of that. It's getting harder and harder to find cast iron sections for these boilers. You can see on the left-hand side. Once one of those cracks, it leaks, the boiler's down, and it's very difficult to get them back and repaired. You can now buy sections, but for a long time there, just recently, it was 25 to 30 weeks to get a section in place. So your boiler's down for that length of time. So it's obviously time to start looking in the direction of the future and finishing that boiler plant to a new high-efficiency gas-fired plant that'll save you a lot of money, and you're future-proofing yourself. It's going to last another 30 years. Here's other aspects of another boiler room at the ECLC. Again, priority two, not quite as important because you have done some good work there, but it's not as volatile as the other boiler plant as you saw. So that's why it's a priority two. And the same thing for the central office, a lot of opportunity there, a lot of wasted heat. There's a lot that we can do there with that heat and making sure that, again, you're future-proofing all of your heating appliances. Another priority one is the split system. This has been something of an issue for Joe and administration for quite some time. It's also an older refrigerant, so it's getting harder and harder to get R22 eventually, and Adam's an expert in refrigeration, so he can tell you that it's almost impossible as a former tech in the field to recharge those. R22 is almost an impossibility at this point, and it gets very expensive. So at some point, you got to start replacing those.
So the refrigerator keeps one on.
That's not on, but maybe the next go around. All right. Sounded great, though. You're like Cesar Milan over there. I barely hear you. So this is another piece of equipment. Again, as you can tell, just by its sheer color, it's obviously at the end of its useful life. It would be done quite a bit differently than this, the exposed conduit on the side, or not without covers this switch there. So just things that, general maintenance things that should be addressed and part of your prioritized list. Messicott water, as it's part of your boiler plant, it would be nice to separate this and have its own separate heating appliance. It'll save you a ton of money in the long run and a lot more efficient way of creating hot water at ECLC. Ventilation equipment is something, it is a priority, but it's not a priority one because it's still running, it's still effective, but it's beyond its useful life at this point. And these things are literally the size of a small home. They're gigantic. And you don't want to replace these on the fly. You want to make sure that you've had a nice period of time, I would say several months, to engineer a solution, get the qualified bids, and start the replacement. You're not going to do them all at once because they get expensive. But as you can see there, and these have had a history of issues as well. So this is not new news to you guys. I'm sure Joe and Deanna and others have brought it to your attention that this is something that you should be starting to look at. Just as an example of the replacement, this was one we recently did at Epping just this past summer. So you can see the old curb here is they fit to those air handlers. And that's the part that can get expensive and cumbersome when you're trying to get new equipment, it may not fit, but there are ways. So we did curb adapters here with stainless steel fittings, and we're able to fit it on the old curb and save quite a bit of money with a much more efficient unit that reclaimed the heat and provided air conditioning. So there are several ways of getting there. Air balancing and just retro commissioning of your facilities is obviously important. It's a low cost measure that it makes sure that every occupant in the given room gets proper airflow, heat per occupant per 15 minutes, which is ASHRAE 62.3 standards for ventilation for schools. Again, a priority one here, elementary school air handlers. As you can see, this is a couple things. This is just sheer age and infrastructure just needs to start to be addressed at some point, because if you start losing these things, it gets real expensive. And again, there's nothing on the shelf that's going to replace this. So you really want to spend proper time to engineer it correctly and then get qualified bids. This one's obvious, as you can see on the right-hand side there, it's hanging up above. It's pretty high up, so it's not ideal for working on it. It's a life safety issue as well as it is an infrastructure, an aging infrastructure issue. So there's several reasons why that should start to be addressed or considered. ECLC air handlers, again, 70s and 80s. So if they're an average life of 20 to 25 years based on ASHRAE standards, we're well beyond that. And there's several aspects that you don't get out of that, which is things like DCV, demand control ventilation, where you can ventilate based on CO2 levels in the space and not just an on-off or based on a schedule. So not only will you get more efficient heat and air, you can control it much more accurately. So in the long run, it saves you a ton of energy, both energy and operational costs. You've got 30 of those existing. So we call those terminal equipment, basically because they're in each room. They're like a mini air handler. And, they're just, you wouldn't develop a school today with these as brand new just because they're loud. And as you can see depicted there, there's books on top of them, which that's where the heat comes out. But that's in every single school system. We see them all the time, every day. And you can do one or two at a time. You can do 5 at a time. It's just, again, creating a plan for it. I'm not going to read all that because you'll go to sleep, but basically more VRF with energy recovering ventilation units in its place. Walk-in coolers and refrigeration is obviously a big one. It's, of all the things, it always seems like kitchen equipment is supposed to last 100 years, and we know it doesn't, right? So there are ways to make them more efficient by adding things like Cooltrol, which you've done. But at some point, this thing is, it's reached its end of its useful life. And there's some school systems, we just did one recently for another school where we took it from being inside because the fear was, while you do have floor drains, it doesn't automatically go to the floor drain. Water likes to find its way to places that it shouldn't go, which then can create mold and other things. I'm not saying that's what you have, but it can get there over time, and you just don't always know where it is. So in one instance, we would take this out and then put it outside on a slab so that you could effectively just walk into it from the exterior wall. And now you've got a lot more room in the kitchen. And that particular district that we did it, that now where that used to be, we built dry storage. So there were places to put dry storage, and then the walk-in cooler, which took all the space, is now outside. So effectively, if it were to leak, it's outside, not inside the kitchen. VRF is, as people have been hearing lately, it's electrification of heat, getting away from fossil fuels, a big one. It's not inexpensive, but it's a very effective way of heating and cooling your classrooms. We've done a lot of heat pumps as of late. That's an example of one where we just finished. Call that an evaporator that's hanging up in the top of the ceiling there. And this is the bid specifications that we used for garnering the bids to accomplish the job. This is a 72,000 square foot elementary school, actually in Kittery, Maine. And so the Horace Mitchell School is now completely VRF heated and cooled through heat pumps. So something to consider. It is very attractive. Again, this is more of the terminal units that we talked about, that I talked about a minute ago. They still work in pretty decent shape. So while they're at their end of their useful life, it's priority 2, just because there's other things that, should be considered. And this would be something that would go in its place. There's a lot of really new cool stuff coming out. This would be called the Dakin Rebel system, where it provides ventilation, heat, and air conditioning, and it's a heat pump all in one. So we still try to wrap our head around that technology, but it's really attractive. It's definitely the way of the future. And again, that's a 30-year piece of equipment, you hope, but a lot more efficient way of providing fresh air and air conditioning and heat. Building automation, priority 1 for sure. Niagara is a brand basically that allows you to have flexibility to choose whoever you want to run your automation systems, service your automation system. When you lose a panel, you're not stuck with that particular company. So Niagara is a product that all these companies essentially have, but they don't always offer it up because Niagara means that their system would be open. And it's very difficult to hold you hostage for service or anything else if it's not Niagara. So our bid specifications will always include it to be Niagara so that you lose a panel, you can get competitive bids. If you want to change your service contract, you can get competitive bids. You're not held to anyone at any time, which is obviously where you want to be. Retro commissioning, finding things that aren't connected or should be, balancing the building, making sure you're getting, again, the schools today that were built for a certain amount of students in some classrooms, they don't have that amount of students, sometimes less, sometimes more, but retro commissioning them to make sure that they're all balanced effectively. It's crazy to invest $1 in your facilities and not have it all completely adjusted and calibrated for today's use. It's a low-cost measure that will save you a ton of money. Building envelopes, a big deal. I don't think that a project should be done without making sure that you're keeping the good air in and the bad air out. This is a pretty good indication of where spray foam would be helpful or anything basically other than what's there, not effectively controlling the heat and allowing it to escape through the attic space. And then just general thermography of the building to make sure that we're checking out where all the leaks are and identifying those spaces and then sealing it up. Building envelope is a low-cost measure that will save you a ton. Again, doors is one of those things that schools inherently love to try to make work for 50 years, but they just will not last that long. I mean, kids love to smash the crash bars, slam them shut, slam them open, you name it. They'd almost have to be prison grade to last through some of those kicks that we see. But they also, through salt and everything else, they'll degrade and they'll rust and they'll fall apart. So getting a door plan together, you're not going to do all of them because, as I'm sure you've experienced, doors are insanely expensive. So our recommendation is always to start doing a group of them at a time, and eventually you'll get to a point where you've got all your new doors. So building envelope, once again, at ECLC, a lot of opportunities to seal up some cracks and save some pretty easy money. Windows is another thing, as you can see here, depicted here. This is just something that, it's difficult because they're expensive, but they are leaking. You can see sometimes you'll have fog, infiltration. It's just, it's a part of building envelope. So it's getting your arms wrapped around it and picking away at it and creating a logical, pragmatic approach to its replacement. And more doors, ECLC and the elementary school, these guys would be something that would be high on the priority list, which is why it's a priority 1. Going to an aluminum door and something that'll last you another 25, 30 years. We've done an architectural study, so we have a complete map of all these things. This is just kind of showing you how we map out the building. and keep track of everything that you're doing as part of your capital plan. And so identifying doors that have been done and doors that are remaining. So as new administration comes in or new board members come in, you have this kind of backup data to show where you've been picking away and what's remaining. And same with roofs. All the roofs that we've just done recently nearby, Goffstown and Epping and all over the place, Northwood's roof. We broke them into phases to make sure we got there, and in some cases did it all at once if it's small enough, but roofs get expensive. So it's making sure that you have a plan in place. Basically, that's all that really is spelling out there. And as you can see, it's showing accelerated signs of wear and tear and rips and just more opportunities for water to creep in. There's a lot of money out there from Eversource. The last project that we did for Epping was we got almost $600,000 in incentives by doing a comprehensive project. It was a big incentive, but it was lumped with other things. And part of it was a roof installation for over $100,000. So there's pretty good money out there from Eversource, and they're happy to give it to you when the time is right. This is a cool one because this is VRF on top of a new EPDM roof. And as you can see here, we accompanied that with a solar project. So that effectively powered that VRF. So it's essentially free heating and cooling. And this is a historic library down in Bath, Maine, which is a beautiful spot. But that's what you can do. It was a new roof. Went away from the balanced roof, went with solar and VRF. So it was a pretty cool holistic approach. And this is the solar project that we literally is just being finished in Northwood as we speak. And that powers the entire building. EV chargers, obviously priority 3, just something to consider. There are incentives out there that we can often go after. We do a ton of those things when the money's right. When I mean by money's right, oftentimes you can get them for free or 75% of them covered. But it's nice to have as teachers, staff, visitors have electric vehicles, something to consider. Security is a big deal, obviously, for everyone. I know you guys have been talking about it, planning it, and have some implemented some. It's just, again, priority 2. But it would be to go after more money that's out there, like COPS grants and other federal mechanisms to start looking into security. LED conversions, right now, Eversource has rolled out a new program that Carl has been communicating with Joe about, and they'll pay literally over half the cost of the installation, which is about as aggressive as we've ever seen it. And some of your schools, I think this school in particular we would consider as a Smart Start opportunity. And Smart Start is a program through Eversource where you can do your projects right off your bill. They'll pay a huge portion of it, up to 50%. It'll all be laid out so you guys know exactly what that looks like. But essentially, you don't have to finance it because it's 0%, and it comes off your bill for 3 to 5 years, right? Depending on what it is. There's no guarantee that all that will qualify because they have a limited pool of funds. But we've done a lot of lighting projects with schools in New Hampshire using Smart Start. It's an awesome program. Nothing's better than 0%, especially if they'll pay for half of it. So it's a pretty slick way of getting some things done. And if you implement other electrification measures with it, like transformers and VRF or controls upgrades, they'll give you an even bigger incentive down the road. So capturing some of that money. These are the transformers I just talked about. They're obviously nothing that anyone's really craving to go replace, but they are a heat waste, they're heat sink, they're loud, and they do age out, and they do cost you megabucks if you don't keep up with them. Unfortunately, they're in places that no one will ever see, like that room, and this is the generator. Depicted here is the location of what we're talking about. And as you can see with the Photoshop on the left-hand side, that's where the proposed tank farm would go. And the thought here is that the generator funding probably won't arrive until next year. FEMA, we brought to your office and met with Deanna and Joe, is basically about a year out for the funding because they're out right now. But your application is in, it looks favorable. For all intents and purposes, it looks like you'll probably get the funding. Obviously, we can't guarantee that, but it would be the same thing with doing your boiler plant. You would then have your generator fired on propane. So 2 birds, 1 stone. And again, addressing this, priority 1, here's your generator at the elementary school. I think this is already stuff that you guys know about, but obviously stuff that we're trying to address for you. And that's diesel, obviously not a favorite. The new one would be propane. And this is what that would look like for its replacement. This is one that we recently did for a school. Monster automatic transfer switch, but it was all tied in with the propane heating plant for the new boiler plant as well as the generator. So very similar situation. And ceiling tiles are something that we often try to incorporate into projects. I mean, when you're there tearing the ceilings apart and they're showing signs of, decay and they're broken up, that's a great opportunity to replace the ceilings, because who wants to put brand new lights into a ceiling that, doesn't represent itself the best? But other things like, flooring and things of that nature, it's obviously something that you could do direct, but as part of the analysis, we looked at all that stuff too. Again, with paving, nothing you guys don't already know, but big repairs needed for the parking lot. And that's something that'll catch up to you and it gets a little expensive. Modernization of elevators there are ways to bring them up to code, fire alarm, life safety, re-sleeve them, rejacket them, put new controls in there, new fire alarm devices for a fraction of the cost is a new one. Sometimes that's an attractive alternative to trying to wait until it fails. Just something to consider. And space repurposing, as we all know that you don't really have the need for that many urinals. Each classroom essentially has its own bathroom. So it would be really good to repurpose that space and make it something that would be a lot more useful than just the bathrooms. Yeah. Yeah. So once we build that whole report for you guys, then we take it and we build it into this tool that essentially is a capital planning tool. And it, more importantly, it allows you guys as a team to effectively choose things that make sense at the right time. So whenever it's financially palatable, whether you're using all those projects I just mentioned were done through a tax-exempt lease purchase. Obviously, it doesn't matter to EMC how you finance projects, but 99% of the projects we see are funded through a tax-exempt lease purchase just because it gives you that whole year of no payments. You can refinance them. The interest rates are very equitable to bonds, and then you can control them. But I only mention that because this tool is built around that. So it has, when you pick and choose measures, as I can see on the right-hand side, we've provided a prioritized list based on red, yellow, and green that matches the slide deck. So that all kind of coincides with one another. So if you were to look on that slide deck, you'd see that the ECLC air handler would have been a priority 1. So you can pick things based on a priority 1, and it will drill down just those measures. You can do it by a phased approach. So priority 1, phase 1, and then deselect, or you do it by measure, and it'll break down some different variables and options for you. And once you select the measures that you would like to consider, you just pick these measures and you go into the cash flow. And this cash flow essentially is your financing term, year 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. And this is a 15 or 17-year term, which is what, we did probably close to $36 million in mechanical projects last year at schools, and all of them were utilized through a tax-exempt lease purchase for the most part that we saw. And they all chose about a 15 or 17-year term because the banks give you a good rate, because there's still life left in the equipment based on a 15 or 17 year. 20 years, there's nothing left. So they look at it as just operational debt. So this tool is pretty cool because it allows you to pick those things, calculate the annual contribution based on what was just selected, and then you roll it into your option builder and put it next to its colleagues here and allow you to figure out what makes sense right now for us as a school district. Is it just lighting? Is it just walk-in coolers? Is it just the boiler rooms? And these are all hypotheticals. And then what we've laid out here and highlighted is essentially your principal and interest payment, which is flat every year. And it starts again a year out. But then what your contribution would be based on outside cost savings like energy and operational costs. I'm a big fan of just carrying the actual cost, because then you've tied yourself to savings that you may change the use of a facility, you may have adult ed, you may use the gym more, energy costs could go up. So that would be your payment. So that's kind of how it works. It's a pretty sweet tool that allows you to go back and forth and choose any or all measures and then build a capital plan just last night, I was at a school board meeting and the district decided to say, instead of option 1, 2, 3, and 4, they created a 2025, 2027, we're going to skip 2 years, so on and so forth, because it gives you plenty of opportunity here to pick projects. We've done this with you guys several times and laid them out in a PDF fashion so that you can look at them and decide, okay, lighting really makes sense because it's a strong payback and we'll get over half of it paid. And whatever else, retro commissioning and getting controls away from our proprietary system, and maybe the middle school boiler room, right? That's a project, so on and so forth. And then what's nice is that you still have all this still remaining that lets everyone, again, new that might be come on board to the board or the community or your administration know these are things that we've done, but all the others didn't go away. And here's the budgets for what they represent. So obviously there's a lot here. Identifying budget costs. These are obviously not competitively bid. These are budgets based on having done all these measures many times with schools. So we have a pretty good grasp on what a boiler room should cost or, lighting and other things like that. So once we know what it looks like, we then go into the competitive bid situation and develop the project for you. That's 6 months of engineering and development in about, 18 minutes. So, hopefully it all made sense. But any questions on what we've laid out here?
So this is going to just be me probably sounding a little silly, but I'm super excited about this because we've not had a real historical, comprehensive, ongoing look at all of the, equipment and systems within the district. So I just think this gives a lot for the facilities committee to go back and sort of chew on and, make some suggestions back to the full board. And what I did, I added a slide for Saturday's meeting because there's been a few questions around, why would you add to your facilities capital reserve, right? But if we have these prioritized projects, I could put a grid together to say, hey, in 0 to 2 years, all our priority 1 projects are going to cost an estimated X. We know those are likely to go up over 2-year time. But now we just have some good solid justification for where we stand with all of our buildings and facilities and equipment. So I'm excited about having this moving forward.
Those of us that are old still think the new elementary school is new, and it's what, it was built in 88, yeah, but.
No, he said you
Oh,
can't hear you
sorry.
louder.
I said, those of us that are old, and went to school up at the, old elementary school, we think the elementary school and this middle school are both new, but this building's 23 years old now. And, I think that what I call the new elementary school on 125 was in the middle, late 80s. So, and that's the problem. By the time we get done paying for stuff, people will go, what do you mean? It's time for a new boiler, it's a new time for this or that. So it's a never ending battle. And that's the thing we're gonna have to teach, convey to the taxpayers that you gotta just keep putting money away and chip and clay at it.
Yeah, it's not a one and done system. I just wanted to say kudos to you, jokes. When I was reading this last night, there wasn't anything in here that I know you haven't discussed in meetings, you haven't brought up. Nothing was hugely a surprise to me. So I just appreciate that. I wish the list of priority was a little smaller, if I'm being honest.
More
with you.
priority 3s.
Yeah, I was really hoping to count some more priority 3s, but that's okay.
There is a lot of information and everything like that, but this is the whole gamut.
Yep.
We don't have to do everything in 2 years. We can pick and choose now. We have a plan going forward, and 10 more years when the next guy's ready to come in, I want to be able to have it laid out for them to become
Give this 10-year.
20 years, whatever it's going to be. As long as they'll have me. But this is where we want to be able to go into the future with this stuff so that the next people that are coming down the road, that there's no surprise for them going, oh my God, unit number 4 has been on the roof for 35 years. What are you talking about? So that's where we're kind of going with this whole thing, and with the help of EMC and the planning that we've all done together and worked collaboratively together. Now it's bringing it into you guys and let's make it all kind of move forward, however we decide.
Yeah.
So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. That's awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Deanna?
All right. So, I mean, timing is everything, right? A lot of this was part of my goals, so that's well played. I don't have to do a lot of talking in that area. I'll just hit the highlights. My report itself, I think, is 11 or 12 pages long, and you certainly don't need to hear about all of that. Under fiscal management, which was goal area number one, legislation and policy monitoring was a huge highlight. I think I have more than regularly reported out on EFAs and open enrollment and SAU consolidation and all of those areas of concern. So I won't spend any more time on that this evening unless people have specific questions at the end. So I'll go on to enrollment and budget planning. I think this has been a nice collaborative, detailed budget process with some struggles, but we got through it and hopefully we'll continue to march through the process. I did just get a NASDAQ enrollment update. And that is in front of you. It was interesting in that when I compared it to the last few that we have, births continue to decline. Overall projected enrollment continues to decline through 2035, dipping below 1,200 at the K-12 level. So it has been interesting. They actually have projected us a little bit higher than we've actually landed year over year. But also, New England as a whole is trending downward. So that is our most recent projection from NASDAQ. So I'm going to jump back to education freedom accounts just for a minute because I did some extra math. I think there's a lot of people in the community that maybe don't understand what those are and the impact. So this current year, the income cap was removed and the number of EFAs awarded statewide was increased to 10,000. In actuality, the state has funded 10,510 because there were some exceptions, like in every process, there's little hiccups along the way. This number has more than doubled from 24-25, and it has cost the state Department of Education over $51.6 million. The estimate, I think I have shared a few times at past board meetings, it's really challenging to tease out, the actual loss of adequacy funds, because if students have, say, always gone to, homeschool and now they're taking an EFA, we never had those adequacy funds in the past, but the estimate statewide is that about 7% of students receiving EFAs came from the public school system. So if we just kind of play that math out a little bit, where Barrington has 84 EFA students, then it's about 6 students that represent 7% of that number. So that range of cost there is because there's the base adequacy funds, and then there's the free and reduced add-on, and then the special ed add-on. So we arguably have lost anywhere from about 26,000 to about 58,000 this year. And if we flip the script on that and say, what if all our EFA kids were in town, we would be gaining back anywhere from 358,000 up to 812. So it's just interesting for me anyway to manipulate those numbers and kind of play the what if game. The current sponsors of the bill are intending to increase the program, and there has been no clarity to date on how they plan on funding it. So typically that means they're going to take a little grant money here, a little grant money there, a little federal money here and there, and also their coffers, if you will, and continue to fund that program. Let's see here. So jumping back a little bit to enrollment, again, we are seeing a slight decline, which is why in this budget process proposed for next year that we did make a 2 teacher reduction. And then we continue to monitor the new roads and developments. At last count, which is about mid-October, the last time we looked in detail at it, we had 70 new students as a result of the new roads, homes, condos, rentals that are everywhere, except then you look at our numbers for next year and we're projected to be down 32. So we're not seeing an increase in our classrooms as a result of the building in town to date, which I think about 2 years ago, we were extremely concerned about that. And it's just not coming to fruition, partly due to increase in real estate rates and the cost of homes. People are, who have homes in town are staying as their kiddos age out. So if we didn't have new building, we probably would be looking at greater enrollment decline. So let's see, I'll touch on goal area 2, which is curriculum, delivery of instruction, and pupil achievement. The next school board meeting, Emily Sherman, curriculum coordinator, will be doing a full academic mid-year report. So we will wait on those actuals. Initial analysis is showing variable results across buildings. Some grade levels showing growth in some areas, but we will dig into that at the March 3rd meeting. All of our professional development to date has been focused on academic and behavioral improvement and strategies, and our upcoming March Day will be targeting a portrait of a learner as part of our process of accreditation with the middle school, and then looking at that district-wide, as well as vertical teaming, which teams ask for all the time. What are my colleagues below me and above me grade level doing, so that we can support that unity across curriculum areas. And their particular focus will be on math sequencing and instruction at this upcoming day. Let's see. As connected to that, as far as student achievement monitoring goes, we have had a very close eye on ELA and math instruction time in the master schedule for both of those things, as well as time on students' MyPath instructional areas for iReady. What we have seen is that it can be done. We've had a week here and there of full success. We're not there yet with having it be consistent week after week. So that has been a large focus of evaluative walkthroughs and team discussions. Let's see, if we jump to goal area of 3, which is relationship with the board and community. I would say we are making great progress in the policy committee. The goal there was 100% of priority policy adoption for the fall and mid-year policy updates, and we are on target there. We were hoping to review 50% of the school board policies, and I think we will achieve that goal by hitting 100% of them, with a couple that we will retain in committee just to allow the board some more end of year or summer workshop time to focus on. Just because they're your policies, so you should spend more time with them. And then the other area there, it's housed in the policy folder, so I always connect it to policy, is looking at job descriptions, and we've added a few positions over the years. We've developed those descriptions, but they've kind of been left in draft form, so I know they need a revisit. And Laura and I were actually talking about we feel like we just did this, but it's been at least a decade. So it's time to revisit our descriptions. So that will be the March, April, May focus. As far as reporting and communication goes, I think we have been pretty targeted with my reports, Katie's curriculum, principal reports, providing regular attendance updates. We've have a live link on the town's website now with budgetary information, and we are just about set up for all of the committee work that are ongoing, that have board representation, to have those agendas and minutes linked right on our website Google Docs sometimes is a wonderful thing because it just does that legwork for you. So I feel like that's really provided an opportunity to increase our communication and transparency. I don't think I'll go into anything around the administration of school facilities because you just listened to that for about a half an hour. I feel really positive about the work that has been done in that area. And I think with some of the electrical incentives and, the funds that we've been able to have in facilities reserve, that we'll be able to get some good projects done. In the area of personnel, I am super excited that a lot of our paper processes will be in the rearview mirror. We had a few things that felt like pretty archaic still. So we are not just investigating, we're in the process of implementing and onboarding the attendance extension of the Power School Suite where we were hoping for mid-year implementation, but there's a lot of back-end work that needs to be done. So we will have that ready to roll for the start of next year. And so we will, at our fingertips, be able to know who's in, who's out, not have to wait for daily bulletins, and be able to actually more closely track items that are, say, in some of the CBAs, like only X number of people can be on a personal day, in a particular building. Whereas right now you have to dig through paper to discover that. So I'm excited about that. And I think the thing I'm more excited about than the attendance tracking is the Power Perform and applicant tracking systems, which were also extensions that we added in the past year and continue to finesse. So now, as challenging as it is to find and hire new applicants, we're getting more than we ever have before because we have our own page linked through School Spring, which is good. Just some additional updates. I have been asked to serve on the New England School Superintendent's Executive Board, and that has been really exciting. Not a huge time commitment, which is nice. I don't have a lot of extra time, but it's interesting to hear from superintendents across other states and how they go about their processes differently. So that is a new endeavor for me. I'm on the legislative committee, which is new for me this year. I'll be completing the Women's Leadership Consortium this February, following 8 months of evening meetings that included national presenters and policymakers out of DC, which has been the policymaker piece has been really energizing and exciting if you like that kind of stuff. And I continue to serve on the Project Search Board, which is a vocational training initiative for moderately to severely handicapped young adults across the Seacoast region. They're actually national, but I only focus on this area. And continue to serve on the Stratford Learning Center Exec Board, given that we are a member district, and hope to continue to support those cost-effective trainings, placements, and related services for our kiddos. Phew. So I think those are the highlights that you have not heard repeatedly, but happy to answer questions or focus on what you need me to from now till June and beyond. Otherwise, I'll jump into calendar.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, ready for calendar?
Yep.
Okay. So this was a little bit of a challenging one. Labor Day is super late this year. So we had to sort of throw out our past thinking around when we typically have, our start of year. And of course, I always wait until I hear from the area CTE centers because we have to have fewer than 10 days that are out of compliance with each other. So one change as you're looking at this, usually teachers come back on a Monday, but again, given that odd later Labor Day start, the 3 customary start of the year PD days that we have, we wouldn't start until Wednesday and do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. For as long as I've been here, Barrington kiddos have always attended school the Friday before the Labor Day weekend. I will say it's exhausting, especially for the little kids to come back a full 5 days. They're not used to that. Also, we are adopting new ELA curriculum next year. We're doing a May training. But to do a May training, one major change I think we've made around curriculum adoption and implementation is we don't do a one and done training any longer. So that September 4th day, we would like to do an additional ELA training so that people really understand that program heading into the year. And then the 8th is voting, so that we have to have there. So what that does by moving that PD day is typically that's the one that is in May. And then by putting that up there, it actually helped with coinciding with our high schools and then other districts in the area. What else? So the state calendar did come out. So the February and April vacations are all in alignment. And I've already met with both union reps on the calendar per contract. And then the last thing I wanted to suggest, it's not reflected on here. Any districts in the area do a early release on the day before the Christmas break. So I didn't know how people felt about that or if they would entertain that. Teachers would still be in session. And again, it would be a nice time to, look at your student data, get ready for student instruction after January, and then also will give us an opportunity to do another touch base on ELA dependent on how adoption is going at the time. We did remove the 2 other early release days that we had on the long weekends in October and May. I think those are just end up being really inconvenient for families. And by the time you do dismissal, you really don't have a lot of time for PD. So I don't feel like I feel like our time is better used continuing with student instruction as opposed to a very short PD section. So that's probably more about calendar than I've ever said.
Well, you answered my question about December 23rd. Everyone in the region seemed to do a full day recently, but it seemed to, usually it's an early release day. So,
Dover, we haven't had an early release day on that in the 8 years I've been there.
no.
Yeah, it's pretty variable.
Yeah.
I mean, I think again, it's the same thing with the other early release days, is it good for families? Is it not good for families? I mean, the other ones definitely are not. If people are going away, they might welcome an early release.
I would, I don't want to speak for all families, but I think part of the problem is that if it's a childcare issue, one of the parents has to take the whole day off from work. They don't typically have the luxury of going to work for a couple hours and then come home. For what it's worth.
Yeah, I suspect that's why we've had it as a full day historically. I don't know that. It's
23rd, if families are planning to leave for the holidays, they'll just keep their kids off.
going to take the day. Yeah.
Take the day and.
But you are looking to convert that to a half-day PD for teachers. Did I hear that?
Teachers would still be in, yes, contractually.
Didn't you just say you found those early release half days not really
Yeah.
productive PD day
Yep.
time? So
Yeah, so I wouldn't be able to bring in like a trainer, or the challenge is because of the difference in the end of the day, like middle school gets out and then by the time the buses are gone and pickups, and it doesn't allow.
it's all the bus drivers' fault. That's what I'm
For a
hearing.
lot. Yes, definitely.
And it's like a day and a half before Christmas. I can't imagine trying to stuff in. I mean, maybe it's just my gut reaction, but I couldn't imagine sitting there for a few hours trying to listen to,
Yeah.
I don't think
professional development while I'm thinking about doing the holidays with my family and things like that. But I mean, that's just me.
Yeah, it's on there as a regular day. I just thought I would bring it up for discussion.
Have we thought about the November date? Because of course there's an election the midterms, and have you talked to Chief Joy? And I know there's always concerns about having,
Conferences.
here while people are voting and.
So the challenge is it's part of one of the professional days listed in the CBA. So I don't know how to solve that challenge, to be honest. We talked about it last year. Otherwise, we're adding a day somewhere else. I think we have 2 days wiggle room with the CTE centers. So then it would just,
We don't need another day off in November.
no, it would, that's the thing, is it would,
It's already
where do you
school
put
November.
conferences? It would, then it would be not a conference day, it would need to be a PD day because contractually teachers need to be in. So then we'd be moving that March day. I don't feel good about not having any PD days from December through the end of the year. That's a long time.
Mhm.
I don't know, if somebody has some great solutions for that, I would love it.
Well, I mean, I think it's not that it won't be a well-attended election, but it's a midterm. It's not a presidential, so.
Yeah. I think this year it will be much lighter and manageable, and the next presidential one, we'll have to put our heads together and come up with an option perhaps. I mean, we can always offer to have middle school families do them remotely. I just know that a lot of people are over the remote piece and would much rather hear about their student progress in person. So.
I guess I think that's probably something we should offer families if they feel unsafe coming because the school's open and people can be armed while they're in here voting and things like that, they can make that sign up and, because it's really not that hard to adjust from an in-person to a virtual to back to an in-person.
Yeah.
It's a click.
Yeah, that we're good at.
And honestly, it might be easier. I know that there have been times where teachers, even though it hasn't been formally announced that the entire district is doing that, but our teachers are fantastic. And if that's if a parent has to go out to their car on their break so that they can do conferences on their phone via Google Meet, you know what I mean? They've done it before and they've always been very flexible, which I've appreciated. So.
Anybody want to make a motion about the calendar? Sure.
I'll make a motion to approve the school calendar as listed. Or as
drafted.
As drafted, sorry. Sorry.
And what was the final outcome on the 23rd
I
of
mean,
December?
leave it as a leave
Full day.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll second
Any other discussion? We just had lunch. Okay, all those in favor?
it. Aye.
All right. So we talked quite a few meetings ago about drama tech coordinator, middle school chorus, middle school band. And then I actually, because I didn't want to leave anybody out, I ended up talking elementary band and music as well. And so after looking at the community events, adding up approximate hours, and what we actually discovered was that the stipend already in place for BES was commensurate with what we're proposing. We increased the other existing ones to tonight, the total hours. Not to say like every stipend, they're not, like anywhere near a per diem rate, like it's a nominal amount to say, hey, we appreciate your time and energy. So the highlight here was on maintaining our town's traditions, putting student talent and involvement at the forefront, ensuring that we are doing things that everybody knows and loves, like the soiree and the Memorial Day parade, and bringing our middle school band students to high school football games so that they can see what that looks like and then, continue on in those endeavors in high school. So drama tech coordinator, is approximately 75 hours with a group of students. And so there's and so what we did is we looked at all of the other stipends across the district and looked at comparative hours and descriptions to come up with these. And this has gone, so first it came to you all as an adjustment to the job descriptions, and then it went, and it had already gone to stipend committee, and then it went back to stipend committee for further discussion, and now it's back as an adjustment to current stipends. Instead of adding additional stipends for community events, we just adjusted the stipends that already exist. And we have some unfilled clubs this year, so we do have money in the stipend line. We're not extending beyond the budgeted amount. So we have an increase to, oops, something is wrong there. 75 hours and 60 hours shouldn't have the same amount of money.
I was going to ask that
Yeah.
question.
No, apologies. That was supposed to be 12. We had batted around a few different, I think what happened was we had BES on here as well. And then when we realized the hours was commensurate with what was already here, we took that one off and the wrong proposal got left on. So that's a correction to the bottom of that one. So an increase to 1,200 from 600, and then an increase, the tech coordinator has been a position that hasn't been funded in the past. They have just up and donated their time. And then an increase to 2,000 for the 75 hours for a band coordinator. And the reason you have similar hours but more money is because it's a greater number of students and responsibility for that group versus the drama tech group.
Wait, what was the number for the chorus coordinator? Was the new number?
1,200.
Yeah. But the current 600, at 600, that's correct, right?
Yes.
Currently 600,
Yeah.
okay. Um, Can we add to the description, unless I'm just not seeing it
Mhm.
here, the fact that the calculation includes additional student, a higher rate of students?
Absolutely.
Because that could change. I
Yep.
don't think it will.
Mhm.
No offense. I love chorus and I love band equally, of course, but just in case, just so that we recall that
Yep.
when that comes up later, that was taken into account. Um,
Is that taken into account when we look at like the athletic teams and if they're a bigger team and smaller, like does the cross-country coach get paid more because there are more kids that run cross-country than the soccer coach? 'Cause
I-
there's 12
I
kids
think
on
it's not only number of students, but it's also the variability of the tasks. Like you're going away off campus with a group of kids for regents. You know, there's just a greater responsibility.
And I think that needs to be captured in
yeah,
there.
yeah, because that,
Yep.
yep,
Because
Exactly
I would
where I
argue
was
the
going with
coaches
it.
are going away off campus as
Yep.
well.
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you for clarifying.
And I certainly want, these folks compensated, but, band and chorus teachers, the assumption is when you go into that field, you're going to put on evening concerts. Like, that's kind of a given.
Yep.
But I do like this better than, the original. I like the concept. I love the concept. They certainly work so hard. But I like this better than the original proposal. So.
Changing the descriptions,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, so.
It's just making it more commensurate with the time and in line with other stipended positions.
Do you need
Well, we probably need to send it back because we're adding language to these descriptions.
oh, yeah. Yeah. So, good point.
I will adjust and bring them back on the 3rd.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ready?
Ready for you.
Lots of talking tonight.
Student services, so the report looks different than it has in the past. I chose to do that for a variety of reasons, so if it doesn't work for you, whoa. I want to know about it, right, so that I can shift it back to what does work for you. The main reason that I shifted it is because we were kind of like pulling apart each individual student with each individual grade, and it just felt like They're all of our students. They're all special ed students. The number's the number, and it really kind of hovered around the same piece. So you'll see the grid at the top, and you'll see that we really haven't changed much, right? So we are minus less than 1% in our total enrollment, which we know is down. Our high school enrollment is also down the same amount. Our students identified are up 1%, which actually I was relieved with that number because the state is higher as far as trending with special ed population increase. So
Do you know offhand what the state percentage is?
they haven't released the total percent yet, but once I have it, I will share it with you. But the last state meeting I was at, they had said that the numbers are more significantly increasing than they have seen in the past.
For the 3 to 5 increase range.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So we have always kind of hovered within a 1% increase or a decrease. So those numbers are trending in the same direction as we've seen in the past. That being said, we have less students in our schools, right? So there's kind of a balance there. Our ELL population is hovering around the same that it always has. Out of district, there's no change. Charter school, there's no change. We continue to have a really strong relationship with our charter schools. We have some students that are now attending VLACs for a variety of reasons. That has caused a few hiccups because of the way that VLACs is organized. They're not considered fully enrolled until after 4 weeks of committing to a course or two, which poses challenges for special education because we are due to provide services, although they're not enrolled anywhere full-time. So it's a little bit of a tricky place to be, but luckily families have been working with us on those specific cases. With our preschool population, we have 22% of our students identified. Again, last year we were 21. So like we're right where we typically are as far as that goes. If we dig into just our pre-K to 8 population, then our high school population, again, we're at 21% for both. That data is consistent with last year's data at this time and at the end of year last year. They don't include out-of-district students and charter school students. That number of students is very small, right? So I don't even know if it would move the needle that much if we would plug them in. Some of the kind of changes in service delivery for special ed in particular is kind of that drive for push-in services to allow students to access the gen ed curriculum in the least restrictive environment with supports in class, with live teaching and live support with the content that they are perhaps struggling with. It's benefited some of our students with improved engagement. It doesn't work for all students, and I've kind of pushed that message out there that this isn't the model we're moving to for everybody, and it's important to kind of take it case by case because some students still need that pull-out one-on-one direct instruction in a smaller setting, and that's okay too. For related services, we've moved to a 3-to-1 model for BES and BMS. ECLC is its own kind of entity, right? They work with the littles and they have to work a little bit different, but they continue to push into, they're working on pushing in as well. But the 3-to-1 model is really 3 weeks, it doesn't work like the 1st of the month to the 21st of the month and then the last week, right? It just kind of the way that it works out is 3 weeks of direct instruction and then 1 week where they're pushing into classes, where they're providing supports in classes, where they're consulting with teachers and kind of generalizing skills across different content area for students that receive related services. We've seen students be able to maintain stronger relationships in class and be able to access curriculum better using this model. It's still new. We just started it this year, but there's some positive changes happening there. Other highlights, although our population in pre-K is down, we've talked about that a ton, right? We still are successfully identifying students as they come in and also kind of as they progress through the ECLC and as they turn 3. So with special ed compliance, we have indicators through the state that get monitored all year long. Currently, we are in 100% compliance. Those indicators are just starting to come out, so they kind of trickle out in the next couple months. But so far, our data is looking good in that area, which it typically does, but it's important to know that it's continuing to look positive. We talked about out of district and charter. We do have fewer than 10. I don't report less than 10 specific numbers because it can be identifiable. So that's why you see there that it's less than 10. All of those students are making great growth in their placements. Charter schools, obviously, we don't place them there. That's a parentally chosen decision, but our out of district students are placed by the district, and they, all of our students right now are making some really positive growth. So I'm happy to see that and have those relationships with those schools. Our free and reduced population is currently 12%. Last year we had to start including pre-K. That is an increase of 1% from last year, and I truly attribute that increase to the work that's been put into making sure that these resources are available to families. I think that we've always kind of had that population within our district, but they maybe weren't able to access the information to get what they need as readily. So Ms. Connolly and Mrs. Taylor continue to push that out and get families resources year round instead of kind of like that beginning of the year push. So we have seen an increase. I think it's a positive thing because it feels like our kids are being supported better. McKinney-Vento, we still have 1% identified. It's a little tricky because the state moved to a system now that this is the only positive part about it, is that it identifies all of our students on a list that I can see readily. And it tells you why. And it also tells you if a student's moved or if they have remained in state, but say they came from Berlin, right? But they were identified in Berlin, it automatically triggers that they've been identified to Barrington instead of us trying to have to find the kids that would qualify for McKinney-Vento. So it's a positive change. It's tricky with the high schools because the high schools have their own McKinney-Vento liaisons and they're identifying students, and sometimes they claim them as their McKinney-Vento students when they're really Barrington. So it's just kind of cleaning up those processes and procedures, and really all that matters is that the students are getting what they need, right? In the interim, while we kind of deal with the background piece of that. After looking at kind of all of this information, kind of looking at where, like how the beginning of the school year, this part of the school year has gone, our high schools have been a busy place. I would say our in-district schools are pretty busy too, but a lot of my time has been spent at our high schools. We have some pretty higher need students that need a little bit more. So I've spent a lot of time over in our high schools, which has been good, but also challenging because it's removed me from some of the things that I feel like I need to get into here too. So some of my goals for the end of the year, like moving forward, is just to review our current IEP identifications. So at the end of the year, I'm going to break down, there's 13 categories of disabilities and special ed. So kind of break down our population and where they fall within those categories. We are seeing an increase of OHI identifications just kind of off the bat that I didn't put on here anecdotally. And a lot of that falls within the realm of anxiety. So we were seeing that kind of increase in ADHD. That's still there, but we're seeing a lot of increase in anxiety for 504s and IEPs. So I'll break that down at the end of the year. I also want to work on reviewing and refining our existing systems, including our 504 system. We still don't have like an electronic database system that we're utilizing for that. And I think that it would kind of clean up some of those processes as well. Continuing to work with our MTSSB committees, along with our special ed processes. Extended school year was tricky this year because we recognized July 4th on Monday, July 6th in district. So the district is closed when we normally would start ESY. It didn't feel fair to students or families to start on a Tuesday, do 3 days a week, and then have 3 full weeks. So we just bumped it down a week, which actually adds a nice chunk of time prior to ESY starting for families and staff, and then a couple weeks after ESY, so kids aren't out of school as long. The directors all met at the beginning of the month and we're like, what's everyone doing, right? Because it just kind of falls funny. And how do you create some consistency for families and kids? And also kind of pay attention to staffing because that poses staffing challenges as well. We've talked a lot about open enrollment. I feel like over time here, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I just kind of want to highlight the fact that I want to put it on your radar, I guess, that open enrollment poses a lot of potential challenges in the world of special education and student services, particularly the fact that a student that goes to another district and we are on the hook to pay for that, not only that tuition, but we also have to pay for those services that are within an IEP or a 504 on top of the tuition, which we do with our, some of our high schools and some of our high school students already. So it wouldn't be unfamiliar as far as that process goes. The challenge is there's no budget line for that to occur. So if a student has a one-on-one, that might cost us an additional $40,000 to $50,000 on top of the tuition. So just to kind of, I don't want that to be forgotten, right? That's a potential financial implication for our district should it pass. And also we are responsible for those IEPs, those 504s that go to other districts, even though we don't have much control over them. So I just think it's important to highlight that because it's not just a tuition piece for open enrollment. There is student service implications financially as well. In due time, we will find out what
Lots
happens.
of time.
Yes. Thank you. Welcome.
Any questions for Katie?
No, thank you.
Welcome. Katie?
Want to come up here? Are you going to stand?
The lights have gone on and everything.
Honestly, yeah.
I imagine you are at the point of saturation. So I will just ask you if there's anything in particular you want me to highlight from my report. If not, I'll leave you with two things.
Is tomorrow the day of play?
Yes.
So I will look forward to hearing about that the next time you
And then,
present.
and then I hear that the literacy, was it not fundraiser, but the
Competition?
the competition is going
Really well.
really, really well.
The
Readathon.
The
Oh, the readathon. And it hasn't actually started yet.
Oh, I thought it had started.
But there are some very yes, the information's gone out, but like the day we start counting minutes hasn't started, but we already have $1,600 in donations.
That's what, okay, I was gonna say, I was like, okay, I knew that something was going.
That is out,
So a
yeah.
lot of money, okay,
Mhm.
that's great.
Yeah.
That's really, really great.
Yeah,
And those are from local businesses or are those from families or?
families, yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think it really speaks to this group of students and the support they're getting from their families.
That's awesome. Okay. I'll let you go, sorry.
Yeah, all right.
Not, I have a not fun, not a not fun question, but
Ah, Jason.
not fun question. No, but like, there's a potential to start next year, like the 4-year-old room, like already at 11, 12. What if that happens? Like, what if, like, I know we're not bound by 12 students, but we try to hover, stay there. What if it gets to 12? I mean, but I know there's a lot of what ifs, but what if we get to 13, 14 kiddos in a 4-year-old room? What would we?
Yeah, that's a
Look
great
like?
question. And we've looked at, we've kind of problem solved that. When I first started at the UCLC, we had 17, 18 in a class. That's why we went to the 3.
Yeah.
So one thing is if the 3s didn't fill, we may ask some 4s to go in the morning rather than the afternoon would be one solution. And otherwise, there'll be larger classes. So we may have to look at, getting creative about staffing if, when we're doing that now, like if a student who has a one-on-one is absent, we have them, going down to preschool or vice versa. And so.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
That's always a tricky one because they don't tell us anymore the birth dates, right, of the
Right.
kiddos turning. And so typically it's the 3s you add, but sometimes you get a.
This year
real-
this year it's been, we've had 2, Typically, when we get a referral during the school year, it's a 3-year-old, but this year we've had a couple of 4-year-olds. So we're hoping that doesn't happen. And then, moving forward, we may have to just reduce the number of tuition paying students that we would have in. So,
Yeah.
yeah, right now, like I said, if everybody comes back, we're full. And I haven't had any indication that any of those students are not coming back. So, those families that are in that lottery for the 4-year-olds, there are no spots as it stands.
Got
So,
Didn't want to tell any of our 3s you couldn't come to the 4s, right? So the risk of being full is at its greatest next year. And then they will just monitor it through the lottery process going forward.
Thank you.
yeah. So just a shout out to school counselors. It's National School Counselor Week, and I think we have some of the best here in Barrington and on our school board. And special shout out to the ECLC counselor.
School bus
Breach-
driver and school counselor, Rick. Wow.
Yeah, representing. So, they certainly, I mean, what they do is just incredible. And then the other thing is just Friday will be Patriots Spirit Week at the ECLC. Go Pats.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
So policies.
Right, I had to make a little cheat sheet list because half of these we looked at back in December. And I was saying to Carrie, like, oh my gosh, I can't even remember them all. So I'm going to go through and just kind of tell you the highlights of the adjustments that were made. So EBBCA is use and location of AEDs. So 2 minor adjustments. One, it was just simply recoded because it was triple coded before and they put it down to 1 so that there wouldn't be, errors, basically having policy language in 3 different places. And then there were some updates to locations and access. One we will actually get to later on because you have to also now have it part of your sports injury plan that's in your EOP that you have to make sure that all coaches know where they're located as well. FEH is Clerk of the Works. Garrett's going to be sad he's not here for that. He loves the title of that one. The only adjustment there is the requirement of when you have to hire a project manager. It went from a 1 million threshold to a 1,250,000 threshold. GBEBB, which is Employee Student Relations. The only addition, or it's an addition, change there was that staff is not allowed to transport students to medical appointments. So I think there has been practice, not in our district, because we have a policy around transporting of students, but I know in other districts, to get students to like mental health appointments and things, that staff has done that. So now it is no longer permitted. If there's an emergency, of course, we would do whatever we needed to do, and there is provisions for staff transporting in dire emergency situations, but that's what 911 is for. IMBA is remote learning. It is required, and it spells out that it is for inclement weather only. JF is enrollment. So this is one that we're likely to see over and over again in the upcoming months. So the recommendation is because of the rapidly evolving enrollment options, such as open enrollment, that we want to make sure that our enrollment policy. So right now it is not specific around class size or anything like that. But we will be required monthly if open enrollment happens to indicate what we have open. And so just to get out ahead of that, the suggestion is, and honestly, we started doing it this year as part of the budget process. It's just, transparent to make sure people are aware of where our numbers are and our class size and what the recommendations are. JLCB is immunizations. You no longer need the religious exemption to be notarized. And then there's the addition of a 30-day window for military students in which to get their immunization records up to date and to the school nurse. JLCDR, administering of medications. There was an adjustment to eliminate redundancies within the policy and to clarify the authority around who can delegate the administration of meds. My gosh, there's so many more to go. JLCK, physical and emotional well-being of students. It is a name change and also a requirement as a result of the Ed 306s. JLD, school counseling programs. Very minor language updates such as guidance counselor to school counselor to align with NHSBA recommendations. JLCJA, Emergency Plan for Sports-Related Injuries. The injury plan is 2 years now, part of the Emergency Operation Plan for all districts, and it updates the list of required first aid and CPR training, frequency, and AED training. So this was actually a pretty big undertaking for the district in this last year plus to ensure that not only that plan was in place, but that we had a mechanism for coaches to get all of those training requirements done.
On
So
the second page of the policy, there's a weird little highlighter.
I noticed that on a couple of them. So yes, we will definitely clean those up.
And the change, I think we got the cop, maybe we only got this copy, but it's the, I can clearly tell that it's the track changes print version.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yep.
No, not a big deal. What's there is correct, so.
Yes.
That's really bad.
The content's
Yes, the
correct, but
content
there's
is
some
accurate. That's what matters.
wonky formatting things. I noticed when I was flipping through and refreshing my memory and what they are, that there's some
So many.
No. JICH, drug and alcohol use by students. Update there to include alignment with our code of conduct and disciplinary procedures. It's recommended, not a required policy. However, we have had very few, thank goodness, incidences in Barrington, but it is always best to have a policy to support such things.
But we'll get rid of that highlight as well.
Yes. IHBG, home education. So a couple of language tweaks there. One, parents are not required to have a portfolio. However, if they request an evaluation of the district is permitted to request to see the portfolio of work from the parent. And then there is language change in there that the parent owns the portfolio, not the district. And then clarifying access to coursework and extracurriculars. IJ, instructional resources and plan. Again, that was in order to comply with the Ed 306s. And then lastly, IJK, supplemental materials selection and adoption. The real guts of this one is around showing movies in the classroom, requiring prior permission of the principal, notifying families, and having a direct connection to curriculum. And that's one we have not had in the past. Okay, so, shoo.
My turn to rattle them. Okay.
Ready to rattle?
So policies for first read, EBBCA, FEH, GBEBB, IMBA, JF, JLCB, JLCD-R1, JLCK, JLD, JLCJA, IHBG, IJ, and IJK.
You say that again?
Oh my goodness, stop it.
You didn't say all the names.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on any of the,
No.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're up to our second opportunity for public comment. Steely, you're our only member of public in person. We have one member of public online. Feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to speak. All righty, then,
Okay,
A motion.
you got it?
Yeah, I'll make a motion
I have to-
to enter non-public citing RSA 91-A:3, 2C.
Second that one.
okay, we'll take a roll call vote.
Baker, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Neil, I.
Walker, I.
Aye. Thank you. All right, where are we meeting in that?
I imagine they have a little cleanup to do. It's going to be